So now that your setup is looking good and you've done some test spins with your fans, now it's time for the pump to come in. Here, what you want to do is stick the outlet right up to the beginning of your ductwork and go ahead and turn it on. The idea here is that air is going to simulate the air that comes from an air handling unit in the real world and run through your ductwork and serve all your different rooms that you designed at the very beginning. See that circle on the side of the pump? Let's be sure to leave that alone because that's the pump's air supply. If we cut that off, the pump won't work. But anyways, before we really get into it, let's give it a quick test run. Go ahead and turn the pump on and see if the fans are spinning just like how you designed them to. So getting into it, remember this activity guide? Now it's time to start working our way through it. Each of those rows towards the bottom is a different trial or experiment that we're going to run through. And the very first one says increase or decrease the distance of the fan. When we say that, we mean don't just put the fan right up to the edge of the ductwork, but maybe put it a few more inches away and then back close. Remember, air is supposed to slow down the more turns and the further away it is from the fans, so see if that holds true and make some observations about it. In this next trial, we're simulating something that happens in the real world all the time. And look up, it might even be the case right above you. We're gonna make a dirty duct. We'll leave it up to you for how exactly you want to get creative with it, but we tore off a little piece of paper and made a small paper ball and flicked it into the tubes. This was to try to simulate a lot of dirt or dust getting clogged up there and seeing how the air would react. Remember, for this project in front of you, there is all kinds of science at play, including lots of pressure. This trial will work a little bit better and act a little bit differently when there's 3 fans involved, but what we want you to do is put a little piece of tape or cap one of your ends or one of your vents. In theory, your system should take some of that pressure loss that was previously going through that vent and now redistribute it around some of your other vents and into those fans. They should spin a little bit faster. This is a good example of how engineers and technicians mess around with pressure and airflow in order to make their system operate the best it can. Funny enough, it looks like this is where our paper ball got clogged from earlier, but it's also a great transition to our next step, which is another real-world scenario, which is when systems leak or start to come loose. What we want you to do here is actually take apart one of your connections and tape it back, but this time only have about half of it or so connecting into the next tube. If you do it properly, you can probably see that about half the air is escaping and not making it through to the rest of the systems, and hence the rest of the rooms. This is one of the first things that HVAC technicians check for when they get calls because systems aren't properly functioning. Finally, friends, on this very last row, we want you to be creative and design your own experiment. Feel free to play around with any of the things we've talked about or make any additions to your project. You could add multiple floors like the idea from the last video. You could of course add length or turns to your system. Stick a little insert in there and see if you could regulate any of the airflow. We also include a few of these in your kit. They're called anemometers, and anemometers measure the speed of the wind. If you look closely, you can see a little fan at the top of the device. If positioned properly, the wind starts to turn that fan, and the instrument measures the rotational speed of the fan and then spits out to you the actual wind speed. We're probably going to have to share this instrument, but we encourage you to take a look and see what kind of airflow you're getting out of your vents, and even see if you can have a competition to see who's getting the highest numbers.